Artists have been carving pictures into the hillsides of England from 8000 BC through to modern times. Most of the chalk images depict running horses. But in the village of Cerne Abbas, in the southwest county of Dorset, the carvers decided to draw a man. And what a man! He's called the Cerne Abbas Giant. Standing erect at 55 metres tall, he is Britain's biggest chalk hill figure. He's also known as the Rude Man of Cerne Abbas, for obvious reasons. The Cerne Abbas Giant is England's most controversial monument, not only because of his nakedness, but also for archaeological and historical reasons. The truth is that little is known about the giant's age and identity. Robert Rhodes is a geographer working for the National Trust at Cerne Abbas.
Nobody really knows the age of the giant, or who he is, or even why he's here on the hillside. There are several theories and legends and stories as to why he might be here. The first is that he's a really ancient figure, and he's a figure of Hercules, a Romano-British god, and therefore could have been here on the hillside for over 2,000 years. The second theory is that he's much more modern, and that he's a cartoon caricature of Oliver Cromwell.
Oliver Cromwell was head of the British government in the mid-17th century and a strict Puritan.
There is a local myth as well that he's a Danish giant, and that a Danish giant came through the village one day and ate all the farmers' sheep. The villagers chased after him and killed the giant on the hillside, and to ward off other giants and scare them away, they drew round his body to frighten other giants away. There is a pagan theory that he is actually a fertility symbol, and they believe that people who are infertile can go and conceive on the giant and will therefore become pregnant. Now, whether there is any truth in this or not, we don't know, but I have actually met people who claim to have been conceived on the giant, and indeed I met a little boy who was very proud of himself because his name was Cerne. Maybe he was conceived on here as well.
Many years ago, before he was fenced off, you were allowed to walk on him and over him, and rumour had it that if you sat on him you would be pregnant. And I sat on him, and 9 months later I had a baby.
Many of the theories about the giant's age come from references to him that have been found. One came in the 18th century historical journal, The Gentleman's Magazine. In a story describing the giant, it mentions his belly button, or navel, which has long since disappeared. So what do local people think about their most famous landmark?
It's an unanswerable question, but I just prefer to think that it is an ancient monument, as opposed to anything that's relatively modern, say 300-400 years ago.
It causes quite a bit of amusement. It brings in the tourists, which is very nice, and I don't think anybody minds at all.
Apparently if you move into the village and the giant doesn't like you, you move out within 6 months. So when we moved in, the day we moved in, I went and had a chat with him, and hopefully he's accepted us.
The giant may be stark naked, but there's never been any talk of covering up his private parts, even during the puritanical Victorian years. In fact, the only time he's ever been covered up was during the Second World War, to prevent the German Luftwaffe from using him as a navigational point. Today, the Cerne Abbas Giant is a National Trust site. So, while we may not know his origin, we can be certain that the giant, and his private parts, will be protected for generations to come.